What's going on, YouTubers, gamers and fellow hobbyists? Welcome to another episode of There Is Only Warhammer. This is where, at the moment, I'm looking at the updates that are coming out from GW on the new Warhammer 40,000, or as I like to refer to it, 8th edition. And in this episode, I'm going to be looking at tactical reserves and vehicles. Okay, enough of the yap, let's get right into it. Tactical reserves. In the new Warhammer 40,000, as today, keeping some units in reserve is still a very important and potentially tactical tool. Yep, good. We like tactics. There are some pretty fundamental changes to how they work though. For a start, not every unit can be placed in reserve, so most of your army will usually deploy on the battlefield at the start of the game. This means they will be contributing to the battle from turn 1, but will also be a target for the enemy, so you'll have to work out how to best utilise those early turns. I wonder exactly how they're going to do that, with like a black and white figure, so that'll be interesting. Quite a few units still have the option to join the game mid-battle though, and they may use a variety of mystical or technological means to do so. While there are no longer universal special rules like Deep Strike or Outflank, many of these abilities will have common themes. So you can still expect units like Terminators to teleport down, Gene Stealer cults to ambush, and Orc Commandos, with a K, to use their cunning, with a K, to sneak up on the foe. As an example, let's take a look at the special rule for a Trigon. Cool, I like the Trigon. A unit famed for its unusual method of deployment, tunnelling up under the enemy army. Okay, and this is called Subterranean Assault, this special rule. During deployment, you can set up a Trigon underground instead of placing it on the battlefield. At the same time, you can set up a Hive Fleet troops unit in the Trigon's tunnel. Ooh. At the end of any of your movement phases, set up the Trigon anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from any enemy models. If there is another unit in the Trigon's tunnel, set it up at the same time, wholly within 3 inches of the Trigon and more than 9 inches away from any enemy models. Any models that you cannot place in this way are destroyed. Sounds interesting, I like the sound of that. So we can see that this will be quite a powerful ability. Yes, it sounds like it will be, doesn't it? Not only delivering the Trigon into the heart of the enemy force, but also an accompanying unit of Tyranids. And there's nothing stopping them from charging this turn either. Yeah. Though that 9-inch distance to the enemy, which is common to a lot of units with similar abilities, will mean that the averages on the dice will be against you for that 2d6 charge distance. You can always use your command reroll, of course. I was just about to say that. Use the command reroll. That's what I would do in that instance, definitely. In matched play, there are a few additional restrictions to deployment methods like this, which you might imagine can get very powerful very fast when used by multiple units across a single army. Matched play games use a special mission rule called Tactical Reserves. This rule helps limit some of the more extreme cases of withholding reserves in competitive games. So while it's totally possible to have an all Deathwing Terminator army, for example, you can't use the teleport rules on all of them in matched play. Though we do think a narrative game where the entire Deathwing teleports in on the first turn to take a Chaos Bastion would be pretty awesome. Lots to think about there. We'll be back tomorrow with a bit more news on vehicles in the new Warhammer 40,000. Well, we're not waiting until tomorrow. We're going straight on to it. Vehicles. Okay, so vehicles. The best way to show you some of the changes is with... Right. So it says, today we take a look at how vehicles work in the new Warhammer 40,000. The best way to show you how some of the changes is with an example. Because we haven't really seen anything from the Necron dynasties yet, we're going to look at the Annihilation Barge, staple fire support gun platform of the Undying Legions. So you got the Annihilation Barge stats there, yeah. So its movement is 12 inches, weapon skill 6+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 5, toughness 6, wounds 8, attacks 3, leadership 10, and save is 4+. So this looks very different in the new Warhammer 40,000, doesn't it just? Before I start, it's using the same stats as everyone else, so armor values on the various facings are out, and instead we have toughness, wounds, and an armor save, making it more comparable in durability to other large monsters and massive beasts of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Also, it's got attacks and strength, so it can fight, albeit inexpertly, in combat. This represents it literally ramming or smashing into enemy units. Yeah. Yeah. Gives a new take on it, doesn't it? Okay. Some dedicated combat vehicles, commonly what used to be walkers, will have melee weapons too, like the classic Dreadnought Power Fist, but most vehicles will need to make do with crushing enemies under tracks or crumpling them beneath anti-gravitic engines. Generally, these attacks will have poor to-hit roll, 5+ or 6+, but high strength, because if a land raider wants to run you over, you'll feel it. There are exceptions, of course. Right, so there are exceptions, of course. Orc vehicles can be kitted out with some pretty deadly close combat options, which now function just like any other specialist close combat weapon. Get hit by a death roller, for example, and prepare to be a pancake. Vehicles will be affected by all other new rules. We've talked... Right, start again. I didn't flow very well. Vehicles will be affected by all the other new rules we've talked about too, so they will be able to move as any other model would, including advancing. They shoot, just like everyone else does, including, and in brackets with a few exceptions, -1 to hit with heavy weapons if they move. They can even charge, which effectively replaces the tank shock rules. I was thinking about that. Except any vehicle can do it, and they then fight just like any other unit in the fight phase. Generally, you'll find that vehicles still fill the same roles in your army as they always have, but without so many exceptions to the core rules of the game. You'll find them to be very durable, probably more so than they are today, and best used in coordination with infantry, and where their own specializations can be used to full effect. So that concludes vehicles. Now, I heavily suspect, and this is nothing official, but where they used to have separate rules, like, you know, the armor values, front, side, back, and all that kind of thing, I heavily suspect that Games Workshop will at some point in the future bring out a boxed game for a lot of money containing vehicles with different rules, and it'll be a different type of game, like kill team type things, but with vehicles. I suspect that would be a case too. Like in Bolt Action, you've got the tank battle rules that you used to have. I used to have the book on it, where it's just tanks fighting, and it'll be a separate rules. But I suspect that could be the case, but I might be wrong. But anyway, that's vehicles for the new Warhammer 40,000, or like I like to call it, 8th edition. But now that's making a lot more sense with these now than the ones we did on like some of the faction focus, like the Tau. That was just I know I keep going back to that, but I mean that was craziness, wasn't it? But I'm liking the deployment thing with the whole reserves, and that makes quite a lot of tactical sense. I love the example there with the Trigon. I do love things in any game or war game to have a tactical element to it, and not that's just the rules, that's just the way it is, element. I mean, there are some games that employ that kind of thing. That's just the rules. It's like a game of chess, and that's the rules. So that piece moves that way, and that's because it's in the rules. It doesn't make sense, but it's in the rules. So I'm liking the sound of these here more than some of the stuff I've heard recently. So that sounds good. I like that. I do like that, and I'm chomping at the bit to get the full rules and to see how it's going to play out on my tabletop. I'm going to set it up, 2 small armies, so we can go through the rules, and probably we'll do that together, so we can all see what is what with that and what I think of it. Anyway, that's Tactical Reserves and Vehicles. So thanks for watching. Join me on the next one, whatever that may be. Bye for now. See you then. Bye.